Yashodanandana Pachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Hari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaradhamadhava Kunjabihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashoda Nandana Bachachana Ranjana Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare By Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya stirs up to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya stirs up to His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Ki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 25, Text 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Vardinana Purakapatra Bhadra Varasattam Sangshudham Sad Asadidam Vivahati Tatra Yalila Margha Pratikatadhe Navatyam Madhutam Swam Janmana man aman sam udar viryam murtina pura kripapadhara sattvam sangsudham sad asad itam vibhati tatra yalila marg prati adhaye navatayam adutam sajjana manas manangshya udhara virya Urtina napura kripaya bhadhara sattvam pungsa sudhanam sad asad idham vipanti tatra ya lila marga pati adha navadyam adutam svajan nang mana angsya dharvirya. Word for word, Murtim, different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Murtim, different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Na, unto us. Pura, because of the mercy, because of great mercy. Ba, Babhara, exhibited. Sattvam, existence. Samsudham, Samshrudham, completely transcendental. Sat asat idam, this material manifestation of cause and effect. Vibhati, shines. Tetra, in whom. Yet lilam, the pastimes of whom. Pati, the master of all living beings, who is exactly like a lion, the master of all other animals. Adahe, ana avadyam, without material contamination. Ad atum, to conquer. Svabjana manangsi, the minds of his devotees. Udhara virya, who is most liberal and powerful. Translation and by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. This manifestation of subtle and gross matter exists within the Supreme Personality of Godhead out of causeless mercy toward his devotees. He exhibits various forms which are all transcendental. The Supreme Lord is most liberal, and he possesses all mystic power. To conquer the minds of his devotees and give pleasure to their hearts, he appears in different incarnations and Srila Jiva Goswami has translated this verse as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. It is by his will that gross and subtle ingredients interact. He appears in various incarnations just to please the hearts of his pure devotees. For example, the Supreme Lord appeared in the transcendental form incarnation of Lord Varaha, Vapur, just to please the planet Earth from the Garbhodaka ocean. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. I want us to move a little bit here. The sun is very bright. Okay. So today is a very consciousness is a very auspicious day, but today in particular is a very auspicious day. Last week I was also giving class on a very auspicious day. It was Ram Navali, and I was feeling a little embarrassed because there's so many very exalted devotees living here in this community that could be much more qualified to give a class on such a day. But for some reason, that was the day that I was giving. So I was feeling a little embarrassed on that day. And then yesterday, when I was looking at the verse for today and all of the appearances and Purnimas that are being celebrated today, I was thinking, wow, I'm really trying to purify me of something because this keeps happening. I'm super unqualified to be giving on such exalted topics, and yet here we are. So I'm asking a bit of time for your blessings and forgiveness in case I say anything that's incorrect in this regard. So today is Sri Krishna Vatsa Ras Purnima and also Lord Balaram. So let me pull up the actual name of it. It's his Balaram Rasayatra as well, which is his dance. So Purnima, both of those. And then we also have the appearance days of Shyamananda Prabhu and Vamsi Vadhana Thakur. So this is going to be, yeah, hopefully with Shastric if anything. So I will speak a little bit on these two Purnimas towards the end of the class, and I'll talk a little bit about Vamsi Vidhana Thakur as well, just from what I've picked up on ISKCON Desire Tree has very nice summaries of these personalities' lives. However, I quite enjoy talking about Shamananda Prabhu because I find him very fascinating. And he is part of a transcendental trio of book distribution that is, I've studied about him several times for different appearance days and classes. So I'll speak a little bit about him to start with, and then later we'll go into these other great personalities and speak a little bit about these pastimes, although I'm actually quite unqualified, so I might leave that for if Taraka Prabhu or anyone else has anything they'd like to add about those exalted pastimes. So, Shamananda Prabhu. He, just like very many great personalities, was born in India, in Bharat, and he grew up in a Vaishnav-based family, as at that time everyone was actually had some knowledge about Krishna. Yeah, the Vaishnava philosophy was it kind of ran through the householders, the houses there, just like we hear about even great demons having very solid knowledge of Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they were just brought up with it as a part of their life. Like Hiranyakashipu had knowledge of the Supreme, although he was not in devotion with Krishna. The knowledge was still there. He was able to preach it to his family members on the death of his brother Hiranyaksha. Same with Kamsa as well. Yes, all these great devout demons, they had the same knowledge of Krishna. So it was just in the family. You just learned it. It was part of your culture. Whether the devotion was there is another story, but the knowledge was there. Might not have been realized with these demoniac personalities, just as an example. So, of course, in the great families of these great devotees, this knowledge is just, they're born with it because they're coming from a spiritual body and taking place in a material world to execute the Lord's pastimes. So, yes, they're very Krishna conscious. So, Shamananda Prabhu, from a very early age, when he was in school, was demonstrating that he was very skilled in reading and writing. He was very intellectual. He was very educated, but he especially displayed specific symptoms of uh, relishing talks of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. So this was picked up for by his parents. They noticed this, his teachers noticed this, and everyone was very pleased that this great saint had taken birth in their village. And at a very young age, he had also realized the importance of taking initiation, taking diksha. This initiation, I've heard it described by my spiritual master that it's like enrolling in a school. You can be attending a university, like I could go down to Penn State and I could sit in on some classes. It probably wouldn't be very hard to get into the university, open to some room and sit in on some classes. And you could get the knowledge that these teachers are teaching, but you wouldn't actually get the credits from being in that class. You wouldn't be acknowledged as being a student, but you'd have the knowledge. You'd be getting knowledge, but you wouldn't be enrolled. So I've heard him explain that uh, taking initiation is like enrolling in the Maha Mantra. So Krishna is taking note that this person is enrolled in my um, direct service through the spiritual master. So now he will be able to get much more of a benefit. So Shamananda was also aware of this. So he approached his parents and he asked them if he could travel to a place called Ambika Khana and take initiation from his spiritual master. His name was Sri Hridayananda Chaitanya. So his parents were very pleased, of course, but they were also a little concerned because he was quite young. Um, and the journey to get there would have been traveling through a jungle. Of course, whenever there's a jungle, there's always wild animals and tigers and all sorts of creatures like that. But his, after asking many times, his parents eventually let him go. So he traveled there. And when he arrived at the ashram of his spiritual master, Sri Hridayananda Chaitanya, was in samadhi, thinking of the Lord. So he was sitting there completely entranced. And it's described that just as an expert jeweler can look at many pieces of broken glass and then find a diamond, so in the same way, when Shamananda Prabhu entered the ashram, his samadhi broke, and he looked at him and he was able to recognize that this is actually a very great devotee who has come here. Just like the spiritual master can look at very many people and he's able to pick out these people are very exalted, this person is very exalted, like that. Because he can see beyond the material covering, he can see who we actually are. So this uh, took initiation from his spiritual master and was given the name Yuki Krishnadas. And he was serving his spiritual master in various ways for a good amount of time. And then he asked his spiritual master if he could go traveling on pilgrimage and go visit different holy places. And his guru, being very pleased with his service, gave him permission to go. So he spent the next 8 years of his life traveling around India and taking darshan of these different holy places, which is actually a very nice thing to do. I've also heard it described by my spiritual master that when devotees are fully engaged in the Sankirtan mission of book distribution, uh, although this service itself is very transcendentally purifying, we can also become a little contaminated from associating day in and day out for hours on end with materialists on the street. So the best way to wash off from this is to go on pilgrimage to Vrindavan, Mayapur, Dham, or any of these places, because they're so saturated with purity that it'll wash off all of our um, contamination that we've accumulated. And as we hear in Srila Prabhupada's books, that people go to these holy places filled with material contamination and they leave it there. And then these great saintly persons, when they walk through, because of their purity, it banishes this material contamination. So yes, I've heard like this as well. It's very nice to go traveling to these places of pilgrimage and visit. Um, so Shamananda Prabhu, he did this, but he did this with the aim of learning. We should also, I've also heard from Srila Prabhupada's books that if we go to these places just to take bath, then and not hear from the holy persons, then it's can't remember if it's like an ass or a crow, but it's one of the two. You're considered like that, so it's not very good. We should go there with the intention of hearing and learning more and purifying ourselves in that way, focusing on our hearing and chanting. Actually, in one very nice bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, um, it's called Sudha Bhakta Charana Renu, and in this bhajan, he says that the holy days like Akadashi and Janmastami are the mother of devotion for those devotees who honor and respect them. Let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my place of worship and bless me. May I always visit all the holy places, associate with the Leelas of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. So great devotees like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was, one of the great heroes and acharyas of our sampradaya, is praying like this, and we can only actually imagine how powerful these places are. Please let me know if I'm speaking too quickly. I've adapted to a Kiwi accent, which is a mixture of quick speaking and mumbling all the words together. So please let me know if you can't understand me. So on the return of Dukkha Krishnadas from his sojourns all over India, taking pilgrimage, on his return to his ashram of Hridaya Chaitanya Swami, his spiritual master was very eager to see him. And he was very eager to see how he had advanced since he had been away. Just like the spiritual master, when they come to visit, they're very eager to see the devotees, hear from them, hear their inquiries, and see how they're advancing. It's actually very satisfying. I've heard it's very satisfying for the spiritual master to see his disciple making advancement in Krishna consciousness. So, in this ashram, when he returned from his pilgrimage, his spiritual master wanted to give him a very special service because he could see that his devotee was taking the process very seriously. So they were worshipping Gauranitai deities, and they had a very nice garden outside of their ashram where they were growing all these very beautiful flowers. And they would take these flowers and they would use them to make garlands and they would offer them to the Lord. Just like we have some very nice devotees that are growing such nice flowers on their properties, and they take them and they bring them here and we offer them to Shishi Radha Damodar, Lilita Vishaki, Nitai Gaur Sundar, and Srila Prabhupada. So the service is actually very special because it's being able to please the Lord so much by offering them fresh flowers. So Hridayanand Chaitanya Maharaj had offered the service of watering this garden to Bukhi Krishnadas. And he would go every day to the Ganges and he'd collect water in a pot and he'd bring it back to the garden and he'd water it with the Ganges. Many times like this, he would go down to the river with a pot of water, collect the water, put it on his head, carry it back, empty the water, like this back and forth. And he would do this so many times, he would actually forget how many times he did it because he was just in such ecstasy in his mood of serving his spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. And over a course of time, naturally, by picking up this water pot heavy, putting it on his head, and carrying it back and forth, his head began to develop some open wounds, some cuts on his head. And because they weren't being treated properly, they became infected and they actually became filled with worms falling on his head. But he was in such ecstasy, he didn't even notice. He was just totally absorbed. And it said that when he'd think about that, he'd even think that he's watering the garden of the flowers that were going to be offered to the lords. He would start crying just out of complete ecstasy. So one day, as he was bending down and he was bringing the pot down and watering the garden, well, his spiritual master was watching him do this service. And he noticed that a worm had fallen from his head. And as he was observing closer, he noticed that actually his whole head was full of worms and it's full of cuts, bleeding. So seeing the determination of his disciple to serve him, not even being aware of these external calamities that were occurring in his body, he became very pleased and satisfied, and it's described that his heart melted. So he came over and he put his transcendental hand on his head and healed his wounds. It's described that sometimes these great personalities, they actually have mystic powers, and they're able to heal people and perform all sorts of mystic powers in this way. But they often don't display them because they don't want people to become attracted based solely on these mystic powers. They want them to become attracted on the preaching of pastimes of the Lord. This is what they want to attract people, not any show of mystic powers. So often, even though these great personalities have special abilities, they won't display them. So after some time had passed, Hridayananda, the spiritual master, had said to him, "You are actually now a very advanced devotee. You're able to serve Radha Krishna. Please go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Srila Jiva Goswami. He is going to be able to give you further instructions for where you're currently at." So this is actually a very advanced stage to take knowledge and note of, where the spiritual master has told a disciple, now you're able to serve Radha Krishna. This is very qualified because actually, not that Dukhi Krishna Das was a conditioned soul, but in general, it's stated that the conditioned souls are actually contaminated. We can't directly worship Radha Krishna. We have to go through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And actually, to worship Lord Chaitanya, we have to go through the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And to worship Lord Nityananda, we have to go through the mercy of the spiritual master. So actually, we cannot approach Radha Krishna directly in our state, or at least in my state. I cannot. You are all very exalted. I'm sure it might be different for you. But to worship Radha Krishna, we should have to first understand Lord Chaitanya, because he is Radha Krishna combined. So we're very fortunate here in Gita Nagari. We have the most merciful Nitai Gaur Sundar on our altar. So we're able to worship them. And actually, I've heard from His Holiness Tarim Goswami that Gaur Nitai is very easy to please. You just perform kirtan and preach, and instantly they are very satisfied. And actually, the Lord is very, very merciful. I was listening to this one class by His Holiness Indrajuni Maharaj, and he was describing this many pastimes, but this one short, he was describing how Bhakti Vinod, how Srila Prabhupada's father was instructing Srila Prabhupada, and he was saying to him that the Lord is very merciful. He's so merciful. He is the Purusha. He's the first person. He is has thousands of eyes, and he has so much mercy that he can give us. But we just have two hands. So how much can we actually hold? He was telling this to Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking, this is actually such an amazing point. Krishna has so much mercy that he can give us, but we only have two hands we can hold. And in the very beginning of our Krishna consciousness, when we're just starting out, we're actually holding on to so many other things. We're holding on to so many desires and wants and karmic things and anartas. We're just holding them. I'm a very visual person, so a good way of seeing this is like if you're going shopping and you finish your shopping and you're taking all your bags into your house, and you're, at least for myself, when I was a teenager, I would always be very determined to like carry all of the bags in one go. Like I'm gonna put all of them on my arms. I'm gonna get like 5 on one arm and 5 on another arm, and I'm gonna carry them into the house. My mom, and I'm just gonna do it in one trip. And I was thinking this is at least when I first met the devotees, was probably my situation, was holding all of these bags of things. And the spiritual master and the devotees are trying to give you some mercy. But because our arms are full with so many bags of so many things we've been holding from this life, let alone past lives, we can't actually accept anything. We maybe can put it here or put it here, try and balance it there, but if we're still so attached to all these things we've been holding, then we're not going to be able to fully accept what the devotees are giving us, or what the spiritual master is offering, or what Krishna is giving. So over the course of time of our devotional life, we start slowly, okay, I don't really need that bag anymore. I don't really need this one. I'll put this one down. Okay, that one's just really heavy. There's no point of it. Put that one down. We start dropping all these bags, and then we're able to actually take on more of the mercy. And eventually, when we're very elevated in our spiritual life, we're not holding any of the bags. And we're just holding the mercy of the Lord. And actually, we're made fully of the mercy of the devotees. At least I can say for myself, I'm completely 100% made of the mercy of the devotees and spiritual master. There's nothing else, just the mercy, no talent in my own accord. So this is actually a very nice position to get to, where we can be fully made of the mercy of the devotees, mercy of the Lord. And then whenever Krishna gives his mercy, it's just very easy for us to accept it. So where are we? West. He has arrived in Vrindavan. He's taking shelter of Srila Jiva Goswami, and serving him very nicely. And it's described, thank you, Bhagavad Gita, Tatvidi Pradipati Paripashamase Vaya Updeshkate Ganam Gananam Savidarshanana. That service rendered to the spiritual master is very important. And the service can be through listening, hearing the instructions of the spiritual master, inquiring, rendering service. And through all of these things, that's actually the secret to success in our spiritual life, is through serving the spiritual master. So he was serving Srila Jiva Goswami very nicely. And Srila Jiva Goswami gave him the very special service of the Kunj, is a special Kunj in Vrindavan Dham. I've never been there, but I've heard very nice things about it. One friend of mine just recently went this year, and she was describing to me that she went to this Kunj, and it's very beautiful. Tulasi plants are growing everywhere. They're growing very tall, creating groves and all throughout the Kunj. And there's this very special little small temple where they set up paraphernalia for the Lord. And at night, everyone has to leave because this is where Radha Krishna come and they enjoy their pastimes. And she was describing that the pujaris, they were saying that night they put, the comb here, and they put some flowers there, and they put a mirror here, and different paraphernalia for the Lord's enjoyment. And it's all, arranged nicely. And sometimes in the morning they'll come and things will be strewn about here and there. So still, of course, in Vrindavan, always the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are taking place. Just vision, we need to have the vision to be able to see them. And it's described that it's actually a very opulent place because Vrindavan is the highest. It's the highest rest. It's the highest pleasure. That even a speck or all of the opulences of Vaikuntha don't compare to like a grain of sand in Vrindavan, because it's such the pleasure and the pastimes there are actually much more opulent than those of Vaikuntha. So just quickly go through this next pastime as we're wrapping up the end of class. Duke Krishna Das was sweeping Seva Kunj very nicely day in, day out, in complete ecstasy. And one day while he was sweeping, he saw I don't know where it left off, but he found this anklet and he put it in his pocket and he saved it. And one day Lalita Shakti, she came, and she is the chief of the Sakis, so she's a very important personality. Um, she came on the order of Srimati Radharani to reclaim and find this anklet that she had lost. So she came across Duki Krishna and she said, "Have you seen an anklet anywhere? I've lost one. It belongs to my sister." And Duki Krishna said, "I have seen it, but like, are you sure it's yours?" So this little transcendental argument ensued between them, where
Krishna Mataji, your Bluetooth.
okay, here, thank you for correcting me. We the Duki Krishna just took bath in Lalita Kunj, and both of them are going to see Srimati Radharani. And when they arrive, she addresses him as in his form as a Sikhi, Kanaka Manjari. So one day it would be the greatest pleasure, I'm sure, of all of us if we could be addressed by Srimati Radharani in our original positions. So she said to him, Kanaka Manjari, welcome home. So Duki Krishna presented her the anklet that he had found, and she was very pleased with his service that she'd been watching him basically sweep Seva Kunj for so many days in and out. And she took the anklet and pressed it to his forehead, leaving a mark of her lotus footprint. So when Duki Krishna returned back to the ashram of Sri Goswami, he was very pleased to see this and hear the transcendental story that had taken place. So he reinitiated him with the name Shamananda Prabhu, Pandit Shamananda Prabhu. So there's many nectar pastimes with Shamananda Prabhu, especially in the later aspects of his life when he goes on preaching the missions of Srila Jiva Goswami across India, along with Srinivas Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur. They're a transcendental trio of Sankirtan devotees. And yeah, he ends up having very many disciples, including, I'm pretty sure, Rasakananda was one of his disciples, but maybe that might be wrong. But anyways, his pastimes are full of nectar, and we can hear about them today. And we can pray to him for determination our services and to be fixed in the service of the spiritual masters. So, just quickly, I'll read about Vamsi Thakur and just speak a very little bit about these other famous today, as I feel myself unqualified to speak about them. Vamsi Ananda Thakur. He was a great poet. He wrote lots of poems about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Um, let's see. Vamsi Thakur appeared in the home of Madhava Das. His mother's name is Srimati Chandrakala Devi. Vamsi Vananda is the nation of Krishna's flute. On the day of his birth, Mahaprabhu was present in the house of Sri Madhava Das along with Sri Advaita Acharya. Madhava was very devoted to Mahaprabhu and was very affectionate toward, and Mahaprabhu was very affectionate toward him. Was very affectionate to him and his son Vamsi. He was engaged in the service of Vishnu Priya and was a reciprocant of her mercy. one time Vishnu Priya Devi and Vamsi Thakur decided to give up taking food and water, there not being any point to maintaining their bodies, which were so racked with pain of separation from Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, did not approve of this and manifested himself before them and requested them not to behave so rashly, but them both to worship the deity in order to mitigate their feelings of separation. So yes, he's a very amazing, another one of the very amazing saints, devotees of Mahaprabhu in our line. So today, these Purnimas that we're celebrating this is the Sri Krishna Vatsala Rasa is where we celebrate the Rasa dance, but in springtime. It's performed, I guess, nearly probably a full moon today. So this is Krishna's Ras Leela, but in spring, usually in Mayapur, I think the deities wear yellow. So we'll see what beautiful outfits we've got on Chila Radha Damodar today. And then we've got the Sri Balaram Rathayatra. So this is Srila Balaram's Rasalila dance, another very highly exalted pastime to read about. I can actually read about it in Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. I think it's the 65th chapter. Balaram enters Vrindavan. There, this Rasalila is described. I always find it safe to read about these pastimes through Srila Prabhupada's books just to make sure the knowledge I'm getting is correct and so I don't speculate on anything unnecessarily. This Rasalila dance was performed in Vrindavan with Balaram with different gopis than Krishna's gopis that were with um, Krishna and his Ras dance. There were, this is what I've heard from a lecture from Isvalan Jeremy. I might have been a little incorrect, so please correct me if it's wrong. But the younger sisters of Krishna had the desire, but they were too young at the time. So when Balaramji came to Vrindavan, these were the gopis that performed this dance with Lord Balaram. Yes, of course, a very nice pastime to read about today. And I've heard this also from His Holiness Devaraminda Swami that on this day we should honor Varuni because this is the day that Lord Balaram did. On a lecture in a class I was at in New Zealand this day last year. There was a festival we were having, and His Holiness Devaraminda Swami insisted that the cooks make Varuni and all the devotees drink it because Balaram drank Varuni. So today we'll see if I can find some milk. Maybe we can make some for the devotees. Okay, let's see, it's 7:48. I'll end there. So just in summary, we talked a little bit about Shamananda Prabhu's pastimes. It's Appearance Day today. Sri Vamsi Vanandana Thakur, the Purnimas of Krishna Vatsana Rasa, and Sri Balaram Rasayatra. So if there's any corrections, concerns, queries, whatever you would like to offer, please mute yourself and grace us with your voices.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, good morning. Thank you for such a wonderful class and for sharing so many beautiful pastimes. I felt transported and it was just delightful. I was so disappointed at points when the sound went out. So again, just thank you. It was so enlivening this morning.
Thank you very much for the encouragement.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I too would like to thank you for a very wonderful class. And I understand that you were a little nervous giving class in a new situation and with some senior devotees present. I I want to assure you that you have no need to be nervous. You do a very excellent job of giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. Um, I am very much appreciating your class. It was very nice. I really enjoy hearing you speak. So you should relax and enjoy Srimad Bhagavatam. You have nothing to be worried about. You are a credit to your spiritual master. You have assimilated the philosophy and so many pastimes very nicely. You present them uh, very nicely. You are articulate, and the presentation is well organized. It's a pleasure to hear from you. Everything that you have spoken is accurate and authoritative. So it's an excellent presentation. So you can relax. Um, gosh, there's so much that we could discuss on this occasion. There's in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is discussion of Lord Balaram's Rasa Yatra. Not actually any details of the pastime itself, but it is discussed that there are, I should actually find those references in this. There is some discussion of the fact that there are classes of individuals. Here we are. In the Adi Kanda, first chapter, text 32, says, due to foolishness, some people neglect the Puranas and refuse to accept the authenticity of Balaram's Rasa Yatra. And elsewhere, that was 32 and text 40, similarly discussed. Says nowadays some faithless persons, and those faithless persons were actually described as eunuchs. So pretty scathing criticism of them, suggesting that they are impotent. Nowadays, some faithless persons challenge in which scripture is Balaram's Rasa Lila described. And of course, we know that there is some description of this in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But there is further discussion which explains that, through the next verse, says some sinful persons do not accept this pastime, even if they read about it in the scriptures. So it is actually there, but that's not the controversy, whether it's actually there or not. The controversy is that there's just a class of people who refuse to accept it for whatever foolish reason. Anyway, later there is discussion of Lord Balaram, and it is mentioned that Krishnadas Kaviraj gives a whole bunch of information, and he Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his commentary, gives a list of references to Chaitanya Charitamrita and the statements of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. But he goes on to, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta goes on to explain a whole bunch of aspects of Lord Balaram, explaining that he is the first expansion of Krishna. He regards himself as both a friend and a servant of Krishna, and he takes in service to Krishna, he takes various forms. Here in text 44, it states Lord Balaram serves Krishna in 10 different ways: as his friend, brother, fan, bed, carrier, residence, umbrella, garments, ornaments, and sitting place. And there is also some mention of this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but the explanation given here additionally is that and where this of course was written by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavan Vrindavan Das Thakur, and so he goes on to explain that the first expansion of Balaram is Shankarshan, or he describes Sesha, and coincidentally, or perhaps not coincidentally, we are presently studying that particular chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam that discusses that very personality, the glories of Lord Ananta, and so there is a description we read a few days ago, earlier in the chapter, describing him as having a white complexion, and details about his bodily form, by pinkish toenails, polished and very reflective. So the devotees enjoy seeing the reflection in his toenails. So it's interesting that we're studying the expansion of that same personality. Anyway, that came to my mind. I really enjoyed your narration of the pastimes of Shamananda Prabhu. You know, there are various descriptions given in various places of this event, these pastimes. One of the details in one of these narrations is that initially his spiritual master was very unhappy with him when he saw that he had apparently some new unusual tilak, and he and in this description his new name had actually been given to him by Srimati Radharani. And so his spiritual master was unhappy with this, thinking that there was some extraordinary impudence, that he was just disregarding his spiritual master and acting independently. Gradually, it was revealed that this was all done by Srimati Radharani, and so his spiritual master was awestruck and felt blessed to have such an extraordinary disciple. With regards to Krishna's Ras Leela. The Vasant means springtime. And that distinction is given in the name because there are actually two different Ras Leelas. There's the Vasanta Ras, which is in the spring, and then also there is Krishna Sharadiya Ras Yatra, which happens in the fall and the autumn, typically around October. What is the month of that? My memory is terrible. I think it's the month of Padmanabha. Twice Krishna performs this Leela 2 different times during the year. Traditionally, at Gita Nagari, we used to prepare a pot of sweet rice. We used to have a gurukula here years ago. We had a 2-room schoolhouse, and both rooms were packed with children. If you want to grow a community, the simple and easy way is you establish a gurukula, and devotees will beat a path through your door. There'll be countless devotees. Anyway, so we had a large community of 160 devotees, many of them parents and their children. And so it was the service of the children to offer this sweet rice to the Shri Shri Radha Damodar. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. I'll end here. Thank you again for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.